The story of Macbeth is, of course, based on a very famous play by Shakespeare. And it's a play about unadulterated ambition and desire. A desire for power, a desire for wealth, control. It features the Macbeths, who are good, loyal soldiers to the kingdom in Scotland. But Lady Macbeth begins to see the possibility that the Macbeths could be more than just good, loyal soldiers. And Macbeth at the same time is visited by witches who forecast the future saying that he would rule Scotland. Of course, they fail to mention all of the pitfalls that come from ruling Scotland, but the Macbeths then begin to destroy all of the people around them that might be in the way for them ruling the country. Of course, the country is destroyed by this ambition and this greed, and ultimately the witches at the end tell Macbeth that he's not going to succeed at ruling the country. And the country rises up against Macbeth at the end. Lady Macbeth, who's given to flights of fancy, goes mad in a rather famous sleepwalking scene where she rubs her hands, trying to get the blood off of her hands. It's where that saying comes from, you know, you've got blood on your hands, because she and Macbeth were so vicious in their attempts to take over the kingdom. I brought Macbeth back to Minnesota Opera after a good long time. Our last production featured James Morris in the role and Suzanne Murphy singing Lady Macbeth. It was a terrific production. This production was created with two people in mind, Brenda Harris as Lady Macbeth and Greer Grimsley as Macbeth. And we hadn't been planning actually to do this opera, but when these two singers became available, we began to think about it. And could we put it all together and surround them with the kind of good cast and good production that these kinds of artists really demand. I chose Joel Ivany to direct this production of Macbeth because I was so impressed with the way he dealt with all the problems of Nabucco. Nabucco is a brilliant opera, but it has its share of issues. And he, along with Thaddeus Strasberger, created a brilliant, vibrant production. Thaddeus wasn't available to join us for most of the time, so it was really up to Joel to translate the concept of Nabucco to the singers. And he did it with such care and with such love, I have to say. And I really like it when a director takes the time to explain what a concept is and how they, as the singer, fit into the concept. Too often, you know, that doesn't really happen in the world of opera. There's a concept and then there are the singers trying to figure it out. He was very careful and made the production work all the much better than we even had hoped it would be. When it came to Macbeth and finding a person to direct the show, I looked for somebody who was going to really help these singers understand this rather intricate play. These characters are not likable, not in the least. The secondary characters are likable. And so Joel came to mind simply because of the way he treated singers and the way he could move them so agilely around the stage. And we began to talk with him and to get some ideas about what he would do with a Macbeth. We asked him to think about using multimedia in the production, to use a video designer as well, and to really allow his imagination to go wild.
At first it can seem very daunting, just the name Verdi and the name, which I don't know, in theater you can't say it, but I don't know, I've been saying it in the opera, so I'm looking over my shoulder every time for a giant ice ice cube or something to come hit me out of the sky, but it's Macbeth has a lot of weight to the name as well from Shakespeare, and then what Verdi did with it. So it's kind of, I've really enjoyed going and exploring the history about the genesis of this opera, and it can seem very daunting with how often it's done, and sort of the fantastical element that's placed within this story, and how you achieve that, and you hope that it's done successfully and not sort of corny. And so that's the fine line that we've been walking in terms of Banquo's ghost and the apparitions and what the witches kind of, how they embody themselves and act. We're using sort of two different sets to make one brand new set. And so it's pulling different elements and kind of pulling its strengths and kind of having that gel. It's a tricky thing, and it was a lot of interesting conversations with our set, in my mind, the set designer, Cami Koo, who is, how do we get the most out of this for our story that we want to tell, which is a very deep story of ambition, of power, of blood, and how do you create that atmosphere while still having it feel brand new and exciting and forward thinking. And so by doing that, we kind of looked at all the different elements that were involved and just said this would be perfect for this, and we could use this for that, and then that can go well there. And I think it's pulling all the strengths for what we want to do, and it's helped us shape how the costume design is going to be, and it's helped shape how the video and projection design is going to be, which is going to be very unique and just very different from anything that I've seen or done, which is kind of exciting as well. Verdi said that the three main characters in this opera are Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, and the chorus of witches. And he said you need a strong female chorus, and thankfully here in Minnesota they got strong male and female chorus, but they're very special, the female chorus in this, and I'm so excited. I had such a great time working with them on Nabucco, and just, I can't wait they're really featured as a sort of a solo voice, these three witches, but three groups of 24 women, so 8, 8, and 8, and they play such an integral part throughout the whole sort of prophesying in Act 1, and then sort of they're watching in Act 3 and showing the apparitions, and they just kind of let things happen, but they're just constantly watching. In our production, we've got them kind of as these carrion birds, these crows who just kind of pick on dead things and just are always kind of watching. I was out running in the fall, and along the path there was just this black carrion, it must have been a carrion crow, but just kind of watching me as I was, and it's kind of creepy. You just kind of wonder what's behind those eyes. And I think with what Cami's done with the witches for this production, it's going to have that sort of creepy atmosphere of who are these people, and what do they want? Do they want anything? And they're going to be moving, they're going to be singing, and it's going to be very exciting, I think.
The last production of Macbeth we had done was rather traditional. And quite lovely, but I think this one will have a little bit of a stronger impact. I think the look of the show, the way it flows without break, without interruption from scene to scene, will really take the audience on a wonderful journey.